The CA, would you say that Thurrock Council is a work in progress and therefore it's difficult for them to be judged right now?
I don't know about difficult to be judged, because you're going to be judged wherever you are at any point in time by every resident out in the borough. I think definitely a work in progress, but going in the right direction. In terms of the CA, there was a lot of really positive news in there for us, and it's quite easy to focus on the red flags because they're headline grabbing, but in terms of some of the stuff that we are getting right is very much the things that are of interest to residents. So things like recycling rates are going up, teenage pregnancies are falling down, more over 19s in education and employment, and those are important things that don't seem to have been picked up so far.
It certainly did pick up that the leadership is improving, and that the systems are in place and we've got the corporate team, so you must be encouraged by that.
Definitely, and I think the improvement board has said that this is one of the fastest turnarounds of a council that they've seen, and with the new leadership team being very clear about vision and priorities and getting partners signed up to that, I think we'll go forward very fast now.
We've spoken to Labour and they've focused on the 2 red flags and said that this is one of the worst councils, one of the bottom 10 councils in the borough still, and they see you simply in that rut. Would you describe it as a rut?
I don't think so. I don't think you get a government formed improvement board in saying that you're one of the fastest improving councils that they've seen, and describe yourself as a council that's in a rut.
But the Development Corporation seems to be much healthier, and that's been highlighted as well, hasn't it?
Definitely, definitely. I think there's a recognition that some of these really key regeneration projects won't happen unless we're working in really close partnership. And again, I think that's down to the change of leadership and the new vision and priorities to make sure that we're working together to deliver what's best for the residents of Thurrock.
So what has caused that? What has caused that improvement in that relationship between yourselves and the DC?
I think there's a recognition that there's 2 very separate sides. The Development Corporation, there's the planning side, with which you would always expect ward councillors to come out on the side of their residents. And then there's the key regeneration side, and I think if you split the 2 out so that councillors can do their job as ward representatives, but can also do their job with the key regeneration projects and recognise how important that is, then actually you get a better balance to that relationship, because there's an understanding of what each can offer the other.
But can you do that? I mean, you have your 3 councillors up in Averley who are really backing the people of Averley, or rather regarding building, say, 551 houses on Greenbelt land, etc., and keep referring to unelected quangos. Can you do both roles at the same time, or are you sort of contradicting yourselves?
No, I think you can, because there's such a definite split between the 2. So in terms of those sort of bigger key regeneration projects, what you've got there is something that essentially, the strategy's there and this project is now to be delivered. But in terms of localised planning, then people will expect their ward councillors, and I think the Development Corporation will now understand that the ward councillors will have to come out on the side with the residents, and they've accepted that, and that's how we're going forward.
Okay, we've spoken to Councillor McPherson about education attainment and the red flag there, but the red flag regarding community cohesion, is it an insolvable problem?
I don't think it is. I think in terms of the data that we use as well, I think we have to be aware that this is very much a perception survey. So it's about how people feel at the particular moment in time that the survey comes through the door. So I think it's not to say that there isn't a problem. I think we're all aware that there are probably pockets where community cohesion is difficult, and that there is a big pace of change in Thurrock, and that's really what's causing some of the tensions around the communities. But I do feel quite strongly that it isn't insolvable, because I think if Thurrock as a borough was standing still, then it would be a really difficult problem to overcome. But in terms of where we want Thurrock to be in 5-10 years time, those benefits will be for all residents. And I think once you start improving skills, education and health, and people's life chances in general, I think what you find is that the residents will feel that they're all on a more even playing field, and that the borough's actually getting better for everybody.
I mean, what was a huge event for the borough last summer was the Tea Fest, and yet it seemed to just be mentioned in passing. Is that a bit of a disappointment?
I think there was something like 45,000 people that attended that over the course of the weekend, so it's the first time that we've done anything that big, and I think the feedback is that it was extremely successful. And so really we've just got to build on that, probably do better around publicity and managing the event. But all in all, I went to quite a few of the events, and they were really good and they were well attended.
Pressure on groups to mix?
I don't know if there's a pressure on groups to mix. I think people will set up groups for a particular group that they feel comfortable with, the same as a lot of us would gravitate to something of our own culture. But the fact is that things like T-Fest showcased them brilliantly, and then they were up there for everybody to see. And if you wanted to go and join the Thurrock Asian Association Dancers Group, you could go and you could do that. So there were the opportunities there, but I think all of those groups need to get better about saying who they are, what they do, and that everybody can join in.
Can you teach aspiration?
I think it's really interesting in terms of where Thurrock's come from historically, and also where we are geographically. And we're very close to Lakeside. We've got a heavy logistics industry here. But at the same time, I think if you look at the GCSE results that the senior schools have achieved this year, that to me says that aspirations are going up, because previously I don't know that there was a commitment to education in the way that there is now. And in terms of how you measure aspiration, I mean that's really difficult, because we've had this conversation before about if someone goes off, leaves school and becomes a hairdresser. In terms of aspirations in another area, it might be seen as quite low. Actually, Thurrock may well be the first person in 4 generations to be employed. So for us, I think you've got to look at the school results and say that there's definitely a move towards children having an aspiration to go on, whether that's into better jobs, better employment, or onto university.